Hello and welcome to The Rewind, where we dive into the making and legacy of various films from cult classics to award-winning masterpieces. Today's film is Mortal Kombat, the 1995 film adaptation of the popular video game from Midway Games. The film follows a group of martial arts warriors who participate in a fighting tournament to protect Earth from being conquered by evil supernatural forces. And joining me today to talk about Mortal Kombat is Jason St. Germain, video editor Joe Blow, and the host of Nerd Cage Live, a celebration of all things pop culture that is available on YouTube, Twitch, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. And have the links for everything Nerd Cage Live down below. And Jason, how are you today?
Hey, never better. First and foremost, thanks for having me back. We did Bad Boys a few months ago, and now here we go, 30 years later, another hit film that continues, the cult continues to grow, that is Mortal Kombat.
1995, Mortal Kombat. I distinctly remember going to the cinemas to watch this movie when that came out because I was a big fan of the game. Of course, everyone looking at you right now knows you're a big fan of the game. We're talking about the guy who co-hosts Nerd Cage Live for Christ's sake. Of course you're going to be. And like Raiden was my guy. I played that game all the time. I had great memories of always taking my bike down to a local corner store. They have like the games there. They had Street Fighter, they had Mortal Kombat. I pump in my coins to play that. I didn't have the console yet. Then we got the console, played that. And then when a movie was available to come out at cinemas, I was like, I have to watch this movie. Even though I was burned by Street Fighter, I knew I had to watch this movie. And I've got to say, looking back and when I watched it, I was incredibly satisfied with watching it. While it wasn't the gory spectacle of what the games are, I was satisfied, I think, to what Paul W.S. Anderson did with the movie. So I had really great memories of this film. What about yourself, Jason? Do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
Absolutely. My mother dropped off my sister and I, God rest her soul, but she dropped us off to see this. My mom was not gonna go see this movie. My mom was not a fan of the games. Again, my childhood, okay, again, I was 6 years old when the first game came out back in 92,
Hmm.
93. I lost my damn mind. My mom could not comprehend what she was watching. And then thanks to goddamn Oprah, because my mom watched General Hospital, and then after General Hospital, Oprah was on, and then Oprah had a whole spiel about violent video games, Mortal Kombat, and how it's going to turn kids violent, and this, and that. So my mom put her foot down on me, saying, "You're not playing Mortal Kombat." Here comes my dad, said, "Oh, just let him play."
Right.
So, so that was a victory right there, in and of itself. And then as a child, I mowed lawns so I could have money to buy the game. I eventually bought Mortal Kombat 2 on console before I like played in the arcade and rented it all the time. I had to mow lawns to buy the game. So
Mm.
when so when the announcement that a movie was on the way, oh my god, like the hype was real. I think right after Mortal Kombat 3 came out in arcade is when we saw the trailer and the commercial for the movie. And then it's crazy enough, before the movie actually came out, TNT, one of the Turner networks in US cable, they actually had a special leading up to the movie, behind the scenes special called Mortal Kombat Behind the Dragon, and
Mm.
I recorded that on VHS, back when we could record stuff on TV. Um, so like my hype was all the way in, and of course my mother had zero interest in seeing the movie, but me and my sister were all about it, and of course we hit the jackpot. In the United States, the movie was PG-13. My
Yeah.
sister was 10, I was 8. So if this movie was rated R, there was no way we were getting in, and there was no way my mom was going to take us to see it if it was rated R. So since it was PG-13, my mom was able to drop us off at the movie theater. Because back in those days, it wasn't weird to drop off your 8-year-old, to a movie theater. I mean, now it's like, dear God, no. But at this time, it was okay to do stuff like that. So, yeah. And again, you mentioned Street Fighter. I mean, I can remember when Mario Brothers came out.
Mm.
You know, I didn't hate that movie, but it didn't hit the same. But when Mortal Kombat came out, it everything clicked, because if you were a fan of the games, you were a fan of this movie, and that's the thing will always appreciate.
You mentioned just Mario Brothers then. I think people need to realize back in 95, the video game adaptations around that time just weren't really doing anything at all. I mean, you mentioned Mario Brothers, Double Dragon. There was a video game adaptation of that, 1994. Street Fighter we spoke about as well. Street Fighter did better financially. I mean, it had Jean-Claude Van Damme in it and other people, but a lot of people didn't really take to that movie. So Mortal Kombat was kind of like a big kind of step up for video game adaptations at that time. And I think that was something that a lot of us were kind of like, wow, they pulled this off. Maybe in the future, they could do better with other. It took some time, of course. I mean, I'd argue that maybe the last 5 years or so probably like is like the when the video game adaptation actually took off a bit with the Sonic and Mario and Minecraft now as well. But I think people need to realize that like this was this was a water in a long desert. We're in a desert of like just bad video game adaptations, and to get Mortal Kombat and to get it to be as good as it was, even though you know campy in a way that it is at times, I'm sure, but to be as good as it was, I think it was just it was a breath of fresh air for sure at that time. Um, let's just talk about the making of this movie. So it comes back to this guy. His name's Larry Kasanoff, and he was a
Yes.
bloke who worked at he knew some people at Midway. He had previously worked with James Cameron. He kind of made the Terminator 2 game, the arcade game with the slick rail shooter thing. And supposedly for Midway it was like the biggest thing like at the time. And the guys at Midway were like, we're making a game now that's going to blow, the sales for that your Terminator 2 game out of the water. So you had to check it out. So you went to go check out Mortal Kombat at the Midway offices, and he was blown away from it. And he's like, his quote that I found in this great article on Hollywood Reporter. He said to the bloke at the former Mid Games Waste chief, Neil D. Castro. He said to him, "This is Star Wars meets Enter the Dragon. This is not a game. This is like a thing. This is a phenomenon." He goes, "I want the rights to it. If you give it to me, I'm gonna make a great movie. I'm gonna do all this stuff." And that Neil D. Nicastro just looked at him and said, "You're full of shit. Like, there's no way you can make a movie out of this." So it took him months to kind of convince this bloke to give him the rights to the film. And finally, the guy relented. He gave him the rights to the film, and he was like, "Okay, time to go to work." You met when I said Larry Kasanoff, you gave that a big yes. You've heard of him before? Like, is he like a prominent kind of person that you've heard of him beforehand?
Well, before Mortal Kombat, no. But the thing I really admire, by the way, my friends over at the Komidogu podcast has interviewed Larry Kasanoff. If you want to check that out, by the way, Komidogu is an Australian Mortal Kombat podcast.
Okay.
Larry Kasanoff, the thing I give him credit for is not only that he was the only one that wanted to take the risk of making Mortal Kombat and to not only a movie but a major IP and a major franchise. Not only he made Mortal Kombat into a movie, he also did like the Mortal Kombat World Tour, the theatrical play tour. Um, he also produced the TV show that would follow called Mortal Kombat Conquest, which I still think is very good. And then of course we got Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and which was the sequel, which was not good, but still Kasanoff had his hands on it. But yeah, give credit to Kasanoff not only in the animated movie as well,
Hmm.
in the and the Saturday morning cartoon show. So credit to him that he was really the one that took a video game and just put it into the stratosphere of like multimedia. And he was one of the few people that believed in Mortal Kombat before Mortal Kombat just exploded. And yeah, I think Larry Kasanoff, deserves a lot of credit. Um, I know he was a little miffed years later when Mortal Kombat had the resurgence, but I don't think Mortal Kombat is what it is today in terms of our pop culture if it wasn't for Larry Kasanoff.
So he like 100% was all in on this, and even New Line Cinema, who at the time like had the who this agreed to take on the movie, even they said that he was crazy. And supposedly he Larry Kasanoff has a story where the head of the studio walked up to him and threw him the script and said, "I hate this script, I hate this movie." And then he'll yell at them for an hour, and then he says, "Well, go make it anyway." So even New Line wasn't behind what he wanted to do, but I'm sure they would be smiling at the end of all of this because this movie made a ton at the box office when it eventually comes out. One of the big things they had to do was find a director. So I read this article on Hollywood Reporter, and the associate producer named Laurie Apelian, she said that they went to like a lot of different directors, had a list of kind of people, and then they saw this movie called Shopping. It was at a screening room called Shopping. That was the debut of Paul W.S. Anderson, who at the time was only going as Paul Anderson. I imagine he had the W.S. later when Paul Thomas Anderson came over, so there was no confusion perhaps. And they were blown away from it, and they wanted to ask him to do the movie. And he, like us, was a fan of the game. He said that like he was from a industrial town called Newcastle upon Tyne. He would have to go to London for meetings. He would have to wait around for hours. And what he'd do during that time is just play Mortal Kombat. There was a place nearby that had an arcade game. He just played it all the time. So when they approached him with the film, he knew exactly what the movie was. He knew exactly who the characters were, all that kind of stuff. So for him, it was kind of like almost like serendipitous in a sort of way. It was fate. It's like how Liu Kang in the movie, he has a destiny, and the destiny here was for Paul W.S. Anderson to make his big mark in Hollywood with the Mortal Kombat movie. What do you think of Paul W. Anderson as a director? Because Shopping was his first film, but Mortal Kombat was kind of like his launching pad. And from
Yeah.
that came Event Horizon, and from that came the Resident Evil movies, and like he stuck out with that whole franchise as well. What do you how do you take on Paul W.S. Anderson as a director?
I think he's honestly, I think he's an incredible director. I know the last 10 years have not been good to him as far as the movies he's put out. Even his most recent one with Batista wasn't good. But I'll never take away from his legacy. Um, and I believe he's on the Mount Rushmore of video game directors because he
Hmm.
brought us Mortal Kombat and, like you just
Resident
mentioned,
Evil.
Resident Evil. He also did Alien versus Predator, which I personally
Oh
didn't care
yeah.
for. I didn't care for Alien versus Predator, but it wasn't because of the direction. I thought Paul Anderson did a phenomenal job directing the film. I just thought the film itself, the story, the writing was terrible in my opinion. That's another story for another day. But when you look at Mortal Kombat, Event Horizon, and in particular the first Resident Evil, maybe you could throw in the second one, but the first Resident Evil, like that was his trifecta right there. I think he's a phenomenal director. He understood the assignment, like you mentioned. He was a fan of the game. He understood the assignment, and here's the one thing I give him credit for, and I give everybody credit for in the Mortal Kombat movie: the writers, the directors, the producers. You gotta think this at the time. Mortal Kombat 1, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3 just came out in April 1995. This movie came out
Hmm.
August 1995. So we barely had 3 games. And at the time, all we had was the games with the arcade storyboards.
Yeah.
Storyboards. We didn't have today's video games have all these cinematics, all these movies within movies, and um Mortal Kombat didn't have any of that. We just had scrolls and storyboards to go off of. The fact that Paul Anderson and the crew were able to flesh those storyboards out into a nearly 2-hour film is an incredible achievement.
The script was kind of like something that's always in flux. So Paul Anderson said that they were kind of like writing it, rewriting it during pre-production, and like kind of like during the filming as well. So the guy who was credited with the script, his name is Kevin Droney. So by all accounts, the initial script that he gave into was perceived to be too comical. I mean, Raiden was always like kind of like seen as like a prankster, like a clown kind of thing, and they didn't really like that. They wanted to be a little have a little more gravitas to the character, especially if you're going to have someone like a Christopher Lambert playing him. I don't think they wanted to have that kind of thing going on. Um, Lyndon Ashby, who plays Johnny Cage in the movie, he had a hand in actually rewriting a lot of that stuff. He came up with a lot of lines in the script, like stuff like those were $500 glasses, asshole. That was something that he came up with. Like that was like his kind of stuff. Um, and he recalls this story where they were at kind of like a Christmas party after the movie came out, and Lyndon Ashley was introduced like Kevin Droney introduces Lyndon Ashley to his date as the arsehole that ruined my script. So, Kevin Droney, I think, didn't appreciate some of the kind of like embellishments that they made with the script in there. But I think when it comes to movies like a Mortal Kombat, and one thing that I know, I'm sure you come across this as well, that when you do research in a lot of these big movies, is that the scripts are always in flux. And are always like even something as big as Jaws, where it's credited to one writer. Several people had a hand in reshaping that thing all the way through the movie, and I'm sure that happens in Marvel movies. Maybe not Star Wars, because I'm sure George Lucas has a tight grip on that, but like I'm sure it happens in a lot of different movies. So for a screenwriter to come to a project like a Mortal Kombat or a comic book adaptation and such, I think you just have to be prepared for your words to be, to be changed quite a bit with the tone of what the director and the cast wants.
Well, on top of that, you just mentioned, and this is a perfect segue. The Mortal Kombat creators, Ed Boon, John Tobias, were present throughout the entire production of this film, and they were kind of the ones keeping everything in line, saying, "Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that wouldn't work. This would work." Um, and not to get off topic, but that wasn't the case for the Mortal Kombat 2021 film, because in
Mm.
that movie, when they filmed, they did that without Ed Boon and John Tobias. They weren't present at all, nor did all they did was they got the phone call saying, "Hey, we filmed this movie, by the way." So so yeah, that I can personally confirm that because I was at a convention last year in Cleveland, Ohio, and I met Ed Boon and John Tobias, and I went to their panel, and they told us that story to say, "Hey, this was the difference between Mortal Kombat 95 and the 2021 movie. 1995, we were there. We were able
Mm.
to shape the whole production." So
Yeah.
that was another thing is that you actually had the creators of the game present through the whole thing. Because going back to the Mario Brothers movie and the Street Fighter movie, that was not the case either. Miyamoto, the creator of Mario, he was not there during the production of the Mario film, and neither was the creators of Street Fighter. So there's another thing that Mortal Kombat had the advantage. They had the advantage of working directly with the creators of the game, which is why the movie translated so well.
And I think, and I still hold the belief that the 95 version is way better than the 2021 version. That's my do you the same as well? Yep.
Absolutely. That's a good. So over in America, the when the pandemic hit, do you remember when like all the movies went to HBO Max? They made the
Yep.
announcement saying we're jumping all these movies on HBO Max. So
Yep.
I was actually in the minority. I was actually happy about that because I had friends and family members that I'll just put it to you this way: they couldn't go out to the movies because they would be at risk, like
Mm.
at risk if they went to the movie. I wasn't at risk personally, but I had friends and family that were, so I was actually pretty happy that, like, okay, so I get to watch these films when they come out with my, with my friends and family. So Mortal Kombat 2021 comes out. I watched it right at 3 in the morning with my friends on the couch, right when it like first got aired on HBO Max, and let's just say that I screamed at my TV. I was not happy at all. That being said, I'm hoping that this upcoming sequel coming out in October will be better. But my excitement is definitely reserved after being burned by 2021. But 1995 to me, I still love it. I watch it every year. Still holds up.
The Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. Let's talk casting. So we have Robin
Yes.
Shao as Liu Kang. Liu Kang is kind of like of the three, he's kind of like the main guy, and a lot of people love playing Liu Kang. I was a big Liu Kang. He was my second favorite after Raiden. He's kind of like the guy who he enters the tournament for revenge, but you could tell with him there's like a destiny play going on there as well. A lot of talks of destiny surrounding the character. A lot of the characters based on, I imagine, Bruce Lee and like the Chinese kung fu archetypes and such. Because of that, supposedly, and this was confirmed by him. Jason Scott Lee was said that he actually was offered the role of Liu Kang. I mean, he turned it down. In that same article I read, by the way, Jason Scott Lee said he also turned down the scripts for Independence Day and Speed as well. He said he didn't want to take part in those films. So that's just kind of, I'm sure when he looks back, maybe he just kind of regrets those kind of choices. But Robin Shaw is on there, so he's an interesting guy in that he's American born, but he kind of made his bones in Hong Kong. He did Hong Kong action films. He did a lot of stunt work, and he was talking about how he was coming back to America. He wanted to take on a film. He wasn't really looking for a martial arts film, but a friend of his was saying, "Dude, Mortal Kombat, this is a big thing. You should really, audition for it." And he does. He said that the casting or process was kind of grueling though. 7 times he had to come in to read for the film. It was read to like the director, the producers, and the people at Midway, and the people at New Line, etc., etc. They're very hands-on because if they were going to have, in his words, he said, if they were going to have an Asian lead and they were investing $1 million in this process, they wanted to get the right guy for the role. And he was, I think Robin Shaw was fantastic in this movie. I think he made a great Liu Kang. What do you think about the Robin Shaw cast in this movie? Do you think that Jason Scott Lee would have done better, or are you with me in that Robin Shaw was like a perfect kind of Liu Kang for this film?
Uh, I mean, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback. I think Jason Scott Lee would have been amazing. Because I was a
Mm,
huge fan of his take on the Bruce Lee movie. Um, but here's a crazy. Want to hear a crazy fact too about Robin Shou that
yeah,
he knew prior to this movie over in Hong Kong he knew Ho Sung Pak. Ho Sung Pak is the original Liu Kang in the games.
right.
And Ho Sung Pak played Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 in the games. And before they did Mortal Kombat back in 1992, he knew Robin Shou, and he told Robin Shou, like, hey, I'm doing this game called Mortal Kombat. And he goes, oh, that's kind of weird, but that's cool. I hope things
Mm,
work out for you.
mm,
Years later, they're training in Hong Kong together, and then the topic came up again, saying, "Oh yeah, now I got offered to play Liu Kang." So it's funny that the two of them, the two original Liu Kangs, knew each other, in the martial arts world. Um, as far as Rob, I think he was perfect. I think the one thing that he did was he gave Liu Kang a personality that we
mm.
had never seen prior. He deserves all the credit for that because not to take anything away from Hosung, but like Hosung Pak obviously just played the character, did the moves and stuff like that. So he didn't get to, act out the character. He wasn't given the opportunity to act out the character like that Robin Shou did. And the thing that always blew my mind was I thought for sure, even back then, I thought for sure Robin Shou was going to become a star. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I thought he was going to be. I mean, Jackie Chan obviously did around that time. Like he became a huge when Rumble in the Bronx came out, which came out soon after Mortal Kombat. Um, I'm just kind of surprised looking back. Like, wow, I really thought Robin Shou was going to become a huge star. I mean, after Mortal Kombat, he did Beverly Hills Ninja and a couple other projects, and it just surprised me that his career never took off in America the way it did. Like he never had another Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Or he never had, yeah, kind of like another other action films per se to really kind of like capitalize on his standing. And I think I'm the same way thinking about Jason Scott Lee. And as I just mentioned, he did turn down scripts, which of course which was of no benefit to him. He had some big movies offered to him. But I always thought that he would have been a big star. And I know he was in the Jason Scott Lee was in the Jungle Book. I think that came out in '95 as well.
And
Like it was like a
he was just in the live action Mulan movie too.
That's right, yeah. So he did those. So those were kind of big projects, but both actors I thought would be really big, but didn't happen. The next person I want to talk about is Lyndon Ashby, who plays Johnny Cage in the movie. Um, Now, there's a lot of kind of like rumor in regards to the role of Johnny Cage. So one of the big rumors for it was around for a long time was that supposedly Brandon Lee was asked to play the role. Now, Paul Anderson did I think it was in 2015 during the 20th anniversary of this film. He did a Comic-Con like question and answer kind of thing, and someone asked him about this, and he said that look, while it was briefly discussed, it was never made an official offer at all. So he kind of like put that down to where it came from, and a lot of people kind of said that because Brandon Lee was in Showdown Little Tokyo with Cary Tagawa, who plays what's a villain's
Shang
name
Tsung.
again? Yep,
Shang Tsung.
in the movie, and they were friends. That was kind of like that was an in for Brandon Lee to get the role, but supposedly he wasn't really interested in doing that at all. So that kind of nipped that in the bud. So, but Lyndon Ashby takes on the role, and like I said before, Lyndon, not only did he, plays a great Johnny Cage in the movie, and he brings a lot of kind of like a lot of the humor kind of comes from him because of the character's arrogance and ego and such, and how it kind of plays out through that movie. But he has a hand in the script as well. He's helping out. He's putting in lines. He's doing all that kind of stuff. And to this day, I just watched a clip where both Robin Chow and Lyndon Ashby are playing Mortal Kombat, an arcade game, while being interviewed about the movie, which is pretty cool. They still love talking about the film, and I always thought that him being killed off in the second one was just such a boneheaded move in that movie because I think he was a great Johnny Cage.
Yeah. Also, now that the Brandon Lee rumor, I've heard that he was gonna get the role, but obviously the Crow happened. But not only that Brandon Lee was rumored to have the role, but Jean Claude Van Damme. Jean Claude Van Damme chose Street Fighter over Mortal Kombat.
Right.
And the funny thing is, the original Mortal Kombat game back in 1992 was supposed to be a Jean Claude Van Damme video game, a Jean Claude
Right.
Van Damme fighting game.
It's like a blood
And
sport kind of thing,
because,
right?
yeah, and I believe it was because of Double Impact. It
Okay.
was some kind of scheduling conflict. He couldn't do the game. So then the people of Mortal Kombat made their own game, which would end up being Mortal Kombat. But originally, Mortal Kombat was a Jean Claude Van Damme fighting game. So now that Jean Claude Van Damme missed out on the game, but he also missed out on the opportunity to play Johnny Cage. And yes, Johnny Cage in 1992, the game was a knockoff of Jean Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. So pretty much like all of the characters in the game are kind of like knockoffs of real life. So we have Liu Kang is definitely based on kind of like Bruce Lee and Johnny
Yep.
Cage on John Claude Van Damme. Then you have Sonya Blade, and I know when you're talking with Cynthia Rothrock and everyone, I have in the link below this really great interview that Jason and on No Cage Live has with Cynthia Rothrock. It's a great interview. You guys asked her about the whole kind of Sonya Blade kind of thing. So what was her kind of response to that?
Oh my god, I was so hoping you'd bring that up. Let me just say that I was kind of scared. I was scared shitless to ask her this question because I knew from other people I've spoken to in our circle that she was a little miffed about the situation. But to explain the situation, yes, Cynthia Rothrock was kind enough to come on Nerd Cage Live, and we talked about her newest film, Black Creek, and we went back and talked about her career. And then finally, before we left, we asked her the question about Sonya Blade, because co-creator John Tobias confirmed for sure via Twitter saying, "Yeah, we based Sonya Blade off Cynthia Rothrock." So we want to get her opinion on it, and she she was aware. Not only that she was aware about it, but she was aware when they were making the game back in 1992 that they were basically uh they ripped off her look, they ripped off her moves, all that, and she was very much aware of it, and she was a little mad that they never offered it to her because they didn't want to pay her.
Mm,
So she's just said that, yeah, they were pretty sneaky about it, and on top of that, she was aware of the movie as well, and again, they were kind of like ripping her character, like, you know, her ripping off her moves, ripping off her look and her personality. So yeah, she was very much aware of it, and she wasn't exactly happy about it, but she wasn't mad at us for asking the question, but you could tell that, when she was reminiscing about it, like, she's like, yeah, they kind of ripped me off. And she's very much aware of it, and and if anyone who's a fan of martial arts, it's painfully obvious, yes, that
Oh
Sonya
yeah,
Blade is supposed to be Cynthia Rothrock. So,
big
um,
time.
and again, big shout out to her. She was an absolute sweetheart. We still talk, by the way. So, yeah, it was definitely really fascinating to get her direct take in confirming everything that we were all kind of like suspicious of.
So when we come to the character of Sonya Blade, the character is like this American special forces officer, badass kind of like martial artist. The role was originally cast. They originally cast Cameron Diaz as Sonya Blade. At the time, she had just did the mask. I think the mask. From what I understand, the mask was being made at New Line. It was in post production. The producers saw footage and they're like, "Oh, this is a star. We need to have this," because the mask was like Cameron Diaz's big breakthrough kind of movie, and so they did cast her. She did the training, all that stuff. And I think a lot of her training, I'm sure, would have came through later in Charlie's Angels movies and all that kind of to get like an idea of what she would have been like. And then she breaks her wrist just right before they're gonna do the filming. So they had to switch, they had to find someone else. So they go to Bridget Wilson, who's now known as Bridget Wilson Sampras. She married Pete Sampras like 20 years ago or something like that. That's her name now, but I'm just going to refer to her as Bridget Wilson here. And like Robin Shue, she says that the casting process was really long. She had to go back like 7 times or so, order people and such. They cast Cameron. When Cameron doesn't work out, they go, "Hey, we need you to come in and play Sonya. Can you do it?" So she's like, "Well, I'm just finishing up this movie, Billy Madison." She does Billy Madison. She finishes up. She goes off to do Mortal Kombat right after it. And the thing with her is that while Robin has a martial arts background and Ashby as well, he has somewhat of a martial arts background too. Um, um, she doesn't have one in there. Bridget Wilson doesn't have a martial arts background. So her fight scene was actually, they saved that all the way to the end of shooting, the one she has with Kano, because she was training throughout kind of like the movie to get into that kind of like the martial arts shape. But I thought she was like really great in this movie and to pull off kind of like the Happy Gilmore, sorry, not Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison Mortal Kombat double in the year of 1995. That would have been a really big introduction to a lot of the movie masses at that time. Because I remember, watching both of those movies in the same year, like, oh, hey, that's Sonya Blade over in that movie. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and also she was in Last Action Hero as well.
Oh, is
Uh,
that right? Okay.
yeah, she played Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, his daughter in
Okay.
Last Action Hero. Um, but yeah, also I don't know if you're aware of this. She was diagnosed with cancer last year, so
Yeah.
prayers to her.
Yeah.
I don't know what the latest update is because obviously she's lived a pretty quiet and private life,
Yeah.
the last 20 years. But yeah, we're all heartbroken when we heard the news. So hopefully, at the time of recording here, I'm hoping that there's a positive update, but we haven't gotten one since we heard about the diagnosis. But yeah, I thought she did an excellent job with the role. So, all things considering, like I said, we all knew it was supposed to be Cameron Diaz, and she basically came in with no training, no experience as far as martial arts goes, and she came in at the last minute. And I thought she did a very admirable job, and let's just say she wasn't bad to look at either. So
Yeah. So now we come to the character of Raiden, who's played by Christopher Lambert. A lot of people know Christopher Lambert, of course, Highlander, Fortress, movies of that kind. So originally they asked Sean Connery to play the role of Raiden, which to me it would have just been hilarious just to hear Sean Connery say Shang Tsung. So, oh, we gotta stop the universe from Shang Tsung. That would have been fantastic, I think. But Sean Connery wanted to play golf instead. So they had to go to someone else. So they go to Christopher Lambert. And by all indications, he was fantastic on the set. He was kind of like a leader. He was just great. And the role of Raiden is interesting in that this is like, he's not a mortal. He's a god known as the God of Thunder. He's a protector of the Earth realm where these characters come from. Um, the one thing I think kind of took some people by surprise, though, in regards to casting Christopher Lambert, is that I always thought when playing the game that the character of Raiden was Asian, of Asian descent. That was my what I thought in playing the game because I loved the movie and we spoke about this when I was on your podcast. I love Big Trouble in Little China, and I always saw Raiden as just kind of like that kind of character of the Three Storms. They took that and put it in the movie. But supposedly Ed Boon said that they never really had any type of, ethnicity attached to Raiden whatsoever. So they were open to look at different things. I don't know about that, but we'll see how we go. But so Christopher Lambert is in the movie, and he loved doing the film because there was no fight scenes. His presence was enough. Raiden's got powers. He didn't have to do anything. His presence was like, don't mess with me. I got electricity in my eyes and everything else. I'll blast you to Kingdom Come if you mess with me. So he loved the fact that he didn't have to train for the movie. He got paid a lot for the film as well. But Paul Anderson said that when it came to the budget, they gave they could only afford Christopher Lambert for a certain amount of days, and they couldn't fly him to Thailand. So they
Yep.
started in Santa Monica, and then they went to Thailand to do other shots. They were going to get a stand-in for any type of Christopher Lambert scenes in Thailand, like cover shots or from behind or
Yep.
whatever. And when Christopher Lambert heard about this, he goes, "Oh, don't be silly. I'll go there. No worries. Don't worry about money. I'll go there on my own dime." And not only did he go there on his own dime, he went there and he like paid for like dinners and everything else. He was really like the exact opposite of what you might find from an actor of that stature at that time, especially in a movie like this. He was awesome to work with. People loved hanging out with him. He was cracking jokes. He was really he kind of like helped Paul Anderson. Paul Anderson said that because this was his first big movie, to have an actor like that by his side, to bring professionalism to the set, all that kind of stuff was a huge, huge thing for him. And these things can flip. You can have an actor of like come in and be like a Johnny Storm, have a big ego and what have you, and turn everything into a mess. But it was the absolute opposite here. So props to Christopher Lambert for that. I think it was awesome that he not only took to the script, he took to the character, but he also delivered what you hope your number one guy on the call sheet would deliver, which is a certain amount of leadership and experience and a good kind of influence on everyone else on the set as well. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and I want to add to everything you just said too. Fun fact. Uh, One of the things is obviously he couldn't go to Thailand due to contracts and whatnot, but his agent told him do not go to Thailand.
Mm,
And the reason why he was told not to go is because if God forbid something happened to him over there, he got hurt or he caught some disease, whatever, that the Hollywood insurance wouldn't cover it. So he was under strict orders not to go, but he went anyway out of his own kindness. On top of that, you mentioned how he went around helping the crew and so on and so forth, helping the filmmakers and everything, because of his experience prior. Because, like you said, that Paul Anderson never worked with anyone big prior to that. Christopher Lambert had his experience in Gunman, Fortress, Highlander, so he had the most experience working with big films. Um, so not only that he helped out, but because he helped out, that is the reason why he got top billing in the film.
mhm.
That is why his name's on the poster first. That's why his name's listed on the credits first. Even though he's not in the movie very much compared to everybody else, but because he's the quote unquote box office draw, and because of all the help that he did out of his own kindness, they decided the New Line and the filmmakers decided to give him top billing in all the promotions and stuff because of how much he helped out on set.
Finally, we'll talk about Cary Tagawa, who plays Shang Tsung in the movie, the main villain, the powerful sorcerer, the host of the tournament. Um, Tagawa was the filmmaker's first and only choice for the role, and you can understand why. Anyone who's grown up watching 90s action movies, Cary Tagawa was like one of the premium villains during that era. I mean, Showdown Lord Tokyo, Rising Sun, there's so many movies where he's kind of like the baddie, and you can see why. He's got a presence to him. He's got that menacing look to it as well. He actually said that when he took on the role, he couldn't kind of, he had to kind of find something to to kind of tap into. So he saw the character as kind of like a mix of a vampire and a politician, which I think is a perfect kind of combination for this kind of character. And I think he was fantastic in the movie. A lot of people say that he's kind of like the best performance in the film, and I can see why, because he really does. Like, if you're going to need a baddie in a movie, he's the kind of the baddie you need. You need someone that when he just looks at you, like he's got that kind of menacing kind of glare to him. He just makes you shiver in your boots, and I think he was just great casting for that role.
Not to mention, like we to this day we hear everybody quote him the way
Mm.
it has begun, flawless victory.
Flawless victory, yeah.
Your soul is mine. Your brother's soul is mine. Like like he's the most quotable one, and and I think if you look at like a lot of memes on the internet, like they made so many memes of him too, and I'm in a positive way. I'm saying like it's just yeah, he was so incredible in that role, and it was no wonder that he came back to play him again in the Mortal Kombat Legacy Season 2, and of course in Mortal Kombat 11, he played Shang Tsung again, with his voice and his likeness. So, he's basically in the Mortal Kombat community. He's like our definitive Shang Tsung.
Yeah, and the reason as well why they made him young in the movie, as compared like in the arcade games, like a much older kind of like man. The reason they made him young is because they didn't want to put him through like 16 hours of makeup or whatever else, and he was happy with that. Like, and that was cool as well. I don't think he needed to really change it up a bit.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon Prime Video. One of the best on-demand streaming services available, Amazon Prime Video features exclusive Amazon originals as well as popular movies and TV shows. Watch Amazon Prime Video anytime, anywhere.
So as I said, they shot the film at the Santa Monica airport. They had like big sets and everything ready to go. Supposedly, there's a story that Lyndon Ashby shares where they had a few eccentric people in their cast. And one of them was a medic. He's like this kind of quirky kind of guy. And the story is that Tom Cruise had a hangar nearby the Santa Monica airport, and Tom Cruise came up to the set and he wanted to get in and have a look around and see what was going on. And the medic said, "I don't care if you're Tom Cruise, you're not getting into this set." It's like, only authorized people allowed in here. So he turned away Tom Cruise, which is kind of really funny when you think about it. Let's talk about Goro in the film. So this was the design of Goro was created by these guys, Todd Woodruff and Alec Gillis. They were from Amalgamated Dynamics. Tom did the alien costume from Alien 3, so we had like a lot of experience there. He was like this big creation. He's like 13 to 16 puppeteers were like playing with this guy, were like had to bring this guy to life. And like the jaws in Shark, he broke down a lot, so they had to get really creative. $1 million spent on that puppet, by the way. And I gotta say, I rewatched the movie like again a few nights ago. Um, so this is 1995. So when people watch a movie, they're going to watch it for the first time. You're going to see some shoddy CGI throughout this movie. See, the CGI in this film, a lot of it doesn't stand the test of time. But what does, I think, is the set work, and I think Goro, as I kind of like the puppeteer kind of version of Goro. This is quite an impressive creature creation, in my opinion. I think it looks awesome throughout the film, and I know you could tell that it's kind of like a animatronic kind of puppet thing, but whatever, man. This I think he looks great in the film, and I think they did a really good job on Goro in this movie.
Try again. Go back to when I was 8 years old. All right, and you're 8 years old in the movie theater, and you see Goro for the first time. It was mind blowing. And also, fun fact: you talk about the shoddy CGI. When Goro spoke, they
Yeah,
CGI'd his mouth, like the
right.
lips. Yeah, so it was a combination of animatronics, a man in a suit, animatronics, and CGI mouth. Because what the reason why this mouth was CGI is because the animatronic in the puppet in the face kept the power kept going off and it kept
Hmm.
malfunctioning. So they were just like fuck it, we're gonna just CGI over the mouth because the puppet's obviously not working right because I guess
Yeah.
it was just a nightmare to operate. And I was lucky enough, and you can go over to Nerd Cage Live. I spoke to actor Sifu Kenneth Edwards. He's the one that played Art Lean in the film. He's the one
Yes.
that got killed by Goro. I mean, he had a few scenes with Lyndon Ashby. But everybody knows him is Art Lean, killed by Goro. So we sat down with him for over an hour, and we of course we had to ask him like, what was it like working with Goro, and he broke it all down. He's like, yeah, it was it was an incredible spectacle, and they said that it was a man in a suit, and then they put the animatronic over the man in the suit, and it was just everything was he said it was just mind blowing seeing like all the people operate the puppet on the side of the on the set there. You could see everybody operating on the puppet there, and he said it was so cool watching so many people bring that to life. um so yeah, I think as far as the spectacle of the film and the special effects of the film, I think Goro is the best part of the movie, and like you said, I think it still holds up. I mean, I'm a huge fan of practical effects. It's the reason
Me
why I
too.
like reason why I love Godzilla so much to this day is
Mm,
I love practical effects. I don't care how cheesy or how funny it looks. I love practical effects. So when you look at the practical effects of Goro, and then you look at the CGI of Reptile, like, come on now. The Goro is the most impressive thing in the movie.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm a big practical effects guy as well. But we are talking about Mortal Kombat here, so if we have to talk about the combat in Mortal Kombat, the fight scenes. So the choreographer on the fight choreographer is Pat E. Johnson. It's kind of like the legendary fight choreographer. He did Enter the Dragon, he did Karate Kid. So he and Robin Shu had a big hand in this as well. They took a lot of ideas from Hong Kong cinema. They wanted to go for broke, stylized. I mean, we're basing this kind of like we have like the foundation in the game is kind of like the moves and the presence of these real life people, but then you have these kind of supernatural aspects brought to it, superhuman, almost superhero-ish aspects brought to it as well in the way they fight. So they were going for broke a lot of times in these fight scenes. And a lot of the cast, like Bridget Wilson, Robert Shue, they do their own stuff in it, And Robert Shue was talked about how he could tell how if he did a good fight scene or not based on how many ribs he broke during the fight. So like the one with Reptile was like a three rib fight, so he broke three ribs in that when he was thrown into a pillar. But however, and I was kind of shocked about this. So two, I think a lot of people say the two best fight scenes in the movie is Johnny Cage versus Scorpion, and especially Liu Kang versus Reptile. I still think that's a great fight scene. That wasn't in the original cut of the movie, so they do a test screening. They put a cut out there, and the biggest complaint from people was not enough fight scenes. So they actually shot those two scenes afterwards and then added to me. And that to me, that's kind of crazy because I was like, those are the best two fight scenes in the film. I'm trying to imagine what the movie would be like without those two fight scenes. It would have been a pretty, not a much shorter movie, but kind of like a bland action movie as well. Because I love the fight scene with Reptile, especially. I absolutely love the stuff that Robin does in that movie. Does even like those kind of speed kick things, it's up in the air, which was one of
The
my
bicycle
favorite.
kick.
The bicycle kick was one of my favorite moves to do during the arcade game. So when I saw that, I was just like, yes, it was awesome. But yeah, what about you? When it comes to fight scenes, what's your favorite fight scenes in the movie?
Absolutely, Johnny Cage versus Scorpion.
Mm,
First and foremost, I mean, as a fan of martial arts and martial arts cinema, I mean, I know it's not the most impressive fight compared to like movies that we have now and
mm,
martial arts that we have now, because it's really the martial arts genre has really evolved.
yeah,
But the reason why I think the fight really stands out, and this is credit to both Chris Casanova, who played Scorpion, who's a brilliant martial artist, by the way, and Lyndon Ashby, is it really, really looked like Chris as Scorpion was really trying to hurt him. It looked like he was trying to hurt him. That he really embodied the Scorpion character. It looked like he was really trying to hurt him. And you see the scenes where he's just kicking him in the head and constantly stopping him, and they have that one camera angle where he's kicking the camera. I mean, that was shot so well. Not to mention, shout out to the soundtrack of the film. I'm a huge Fear Factory fan, so to hear
yeah, me too.
Fear Factory Zero Signal for that fight, and not to mention, I do like Scorpion's Lair. That was cool how they built that set within a day. It was one
Yeah.
of the reshoots that they did. Um, but hands down, that's the best fight. Not because it was shot well and the music was awesome, but like it really looked like he was trying to hurt him. And of course, we get the finale we get to see Scorpion's fatality where he takes the mask off with the skeleton and then breathes fire. It was seeing that as a fan of the game and seeing that on the big screen again. It was mind blowing as a child to see that, and not to mention for PG-13, and you get to see the fire breathing, and you get to see Scorpion explode. Like they were pushing the envelope. I know it's PG-13, but they were pushing the envelope as far as they could without breaking the PG-13 rating. So, everything about that scene was perfect as you can get it. Awesome music, awesome fight, an awesome spectacle with the fatality at the end.
Speaking of the music, the soundtrack for this film is just awesome. I mean, when it comes to that Techno Syndrome song, like that main theme from the Immortals, you can't. I miss the days when a song, you can hear a song and you can match it to the movie. There's like certain songs and movies that go together, like yeah, Danger Zone with Top Gun or Eye of the Tiger with Rocky 3. And this one, the Immortal song and Mortal Kombat just I like go together so well. Supposedly, Kasanov was saying that they always want to do like electronic dance kind of soundtrack, And a lot of studios at the like music studios at the time just refused to kind of get on board with this. They're like, no, it has to be rock, it has to be this generic or whatever. It goes, no, no, we want to do this other thing. So they actually made their own little record company and released the stuff themselves, and the thing went like platinum. So sucked into Sony and everyone else who turned that thing down. And I think especially when it comes to the composer of the movie George S. Clinton, he was talking about how the whole kind of electric kind of thing with it just goes so well with everything in the movie. He wanted not to have any flutes, no clarinets, no trumpets. He had like really kind of string instrument stuff. He had violas and cellos, a lot of low brass stuff, and then percussion, and then the electronic stuff on top of it. Then you have like this metal element in it. You mentioned Fear Factory, Stabbing Westward, Napalm Death, like this grindcore band from like England. They're in the soundtrack as well. I think it's just fantastic how they put all this stuff together and it creates something that's really unique to that movie. Because I think action movies at the time, outside of like your Rockies or something like that, can get kind of really generic with a lot of, Hans Zimmer wasn't really, well, he was doing stuff. He did Crimson Tide, but he wasn't like doing the huge kind of spectacle stuff. But this soundtrack, especially that Immortal song, you talked about Zero Signal, all these songs that are in the movie are just fantastic. And it brings an energy to the movie, which I think like so really, really needed that kind of thing. You needed to get pumped up while watching this film in the way, like you explained before, with the Scorpion Johnny Cage fight with Zero Signal coming in. It brings a violence and a ferocity to it as well. And I absolutely love that about this movie.
Yeah, back up and keep continuing on the soundtrack here. Yeah, as you mentioned earlier, yeah, the new line they actually wanted Van Halen and AC/DC.
Right.
Not to put those bands down, but it would not have worked. So
No.
credit to Larry Kasanoff. He made the right decision. They got a slapping soundtrack, and like you just said, the album went platinum. That was the first electronic dance album to ever go platinum, which is mind blowing to think about. And it's funny you mentioned Stabbing Westward. Yeah, Stabbing Westward's music's in the film, but it
Mm.
was not, but for whatever reason it didn't make it onto like the CD, the soundtrack
Oh, is
CD.
that right? Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. The song "Lost," which is off the first album from Stabbing Westward, for whatever reason didn't make it into the soundtrack, but it's in the movie. I don't know. I
Maybe it
always
was
thought
just
that
a
was
rights
weird.
thing or something. I'm sure Sabian Westwood would have been incredibly upset about not being a part of a platinum selling, a soundtrack.
And here's something pretty cool. We were just talking about Zero Signal from Fear Factory. Get this shit. So this well he doesn't well he's kind of retired now, but he was on my show. But Finn McKenty, the Punk Rock MBA podcast, um, he interviewed Dino Cazares from Fear Factory, and the topic of Mortal Kombat came up. Here's something interesting enough. If you're familiar with Fear Factory, you're familiar with the album Demanufacture.
Yeah.
So when the New Line approached Fear Factory to make music for the movie, Zero Signal was not the song that they planned. So the song that was written for Mortal Kombat from Fear Factory, the song that they wrote for Mortal Kombat,
Can
was
I guess?
actually
Can I guess? Can I
yeah,
guess?
yeah. Go ahead,
Was it
guess.
new?
Guess what song
Was it
was it?
was it New Breed?
No,
Oh, I
no.
thought it'd be New Breed.
It was the oh my god, I'm stumping on the song now because hold on, I can tell you right now because I'm stumping on the song, but it's actually the uh self-biased resistor.
Ah, yeah, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
self-biased resistor, the second track on the album, that was
yeah.
written for Mortal Kombat. So if you listen to the lyrics, it makes sense why that was written for Mortal Kombat. So when they brought the song to New Line, they heard it and they're like, we like Zero Signal better. Can we use that one?
Well, it's
So
a
yeah,
good,
Zero Signal
yeah.
was not written for Mortal Kombat. Self-biased resistor was.
Well, it worked out for everyone. They wrote a cool song. It's
Yeah,
unbeat manufacturer, and Zero Signal is awesome. I would have thought New Wave. I don't know why, but I thought like the kind of really kind of techno aspects of New Wave
yeah.
would have been the one. I'm not New Wave, New Breed. Sorry, I
New
thought that would
breed.
have been
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
Demanufactured is a masterpiece.
it is. It's a fantastic album, and I like the last album they did with what was it called? The comeback album they made with when Dino came back to the band with Burton C. Bell. I forgot. Gene Hoglan was on the drums for it. I forgot what the album's called. Anyway, we'll move on.
Mechanized.
Could be Mechanized. Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was. Yeah,
Dino came back from Mechanized. Then they did Genexus
it was
without a
definitely
drummer.
Mechanized. Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
yeah,
So
Mechanized. Yeah, Mechanized
because
was great. I think.
Yeah,
Yep.
because
I
Gene
think
Hoglan's
Mechanized was the
on.
last great album that I think the last great Fear Factory album was Mechanized personally.
Me too. Because
I'm not trying to put down. I'm not trying to put down the other albums. I'm just saying, like, I think their last like superb, like top of the line, top tier Fear Factory album was Mechanized.
Me too. I mean, anything Gene Hoglan's on, I think is fantastic. He's my favorite metal drummer. Him and Dave Lombardo, hand to hand, my favorite
Yeah.
metal drummers of all time. So this movie comes out August 18, 1995. So its budget was like 20 something million dollars. The movie makes $122 million worldwide. For a lot of people, it broke the video game curse. It was a film that even though it was PG-13, I think the having Ed Boon and the other co-creator on board and everyone else, all the work that they did, really came off really well because the film was really embraced by the fans. Straight away, they want to do a sequel. They asked Paul Anderson if he wants to do it, and he says no. He did Event Horizon next, and he actually did an interview where he talked about he kind of looks back on that in regret because he's like he should have stuck out with the franchise, he should have stayed there, which is why he said that when he became involved in Resident Evil, he wanted to do every movie himself. He didn't want anyone else to take over because, of course, when that sequel of Mortal Kombat Annihilation comes out, a lot of people did not like that film. That the tone was off. Supposedly, the movie wasn't even finished with special effects, but they pushed it out there anyway to hit the release date. And a lot of people do not look at that film with the same type of don't embrace it the same way that we embraced the 1995 movie, unless you're like into really kind of schlocky, kind of like really bad, kind of watching bad cinema. But yeah, I mean, it's been 30 years since this movie came out, and to me, it still stands. Like if you're looking at video game adaptations, and granted, the list might be not as expansive as compared to other genres of film, but this has to be, in my opinion, probably top three of video game adaptation movies. I mean, would you put that up there as well?
Oh yeah, it's my number one. Oh, by the way, to add to everything you just said, when the movie came out in August, it broke the box office record in the month of August.
Wow.
It held.
Wow.
It didn't hold the record very long, but it was the August um, box office record holder for a while when it first came out. Um, but yeah, it's definitely top. It's my favorite personally, but yeah, I think it's absolutely the top three, if not, it's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of video game adaptations. I think to me, if I had to pick three, it would be this film. You gotta give not the original, the new Mario Brothers movie that came out a couple years ago, the animated
Yep.
one.
Yep.
You got to put that in there because look at all the records that broke. I mean, that made what was it, 1.4 billion.
Yeah.
Um, and then this is gonna be controversial, but my number three pick would probably be the first Resident Evil. I know people shit on those movies now, but for me, as a Resident Evil fan and a fan of Paul Anderson, I love. So for me, my holy trinity is Mortal Kombat, Mario Brothers, Resident Evil, and if I had to pick a fourth one as my Mount Rushmore, the first Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie. That's
Right.
my top four. What about you? What's you just mentioned top three? What would be your top three video game adaptations?
Well, Mortal Kombat will be up there. I liked the third Sonic movie, the one that just came out a couple like a year ago or so. My kids are Sonic mad, so I think a lot of that kind of excitement, exuberance has just won me over. So I like that one. You know what a movie that I like, and granted I didn't play the game, so I can't compare what it is. I'm just looking at it as kind of like a horror fan kind of thing. I didn't mind that first Silent Hill movie that came out with Radha Mitchell in it. I thought some of the imagery in that film was really kind of effective. But I never played the game, so I can't compare whether it was a good adaptation or not. So if I was going to put three, I'll put Mortal Kombat, Sonic 3, and Silent Hill up there as well.
Good picks.
But then again, I can't like Sonic. Of course, I played Mortal Kombat. I played, but Silent Hill, I never played that, so I can't compare in regards to whether it's a good adaptation or not. What's the Silent Hill reputation amongst the gamer community, by the way? The movie is it was it perceived as kind of like a good adaptation, or is it something that was a little way
I
off?
think it's pretty mixed. Man, I wish Joe was here. My co-host Joe is a diehard Silent Hill fan. He likes it, but he feels. But from the temperature in the room, I feel like it's pretty mixed. Some people really like it, some people really don't.
Mm,
Um, and now we have a new Silent Hill movie coming out next year,
right.
based off of Silent Hill 2, which just got a remake by the way. And I just played that for the first time. I never played Silent Hill until I played the remake of the second one. Um, but some people are not liking what they see of the new photos and stuff of the movie coming out next year, and it's like, oh boy. And then next year we're also getting the Resident Evil reboot with Zach Cregger, Weapons and Barbarian. He's got his Resident Evil movie coming out next year. Um, I think it will be good, but people are skeptic, and they have every right to be. Um, so yeah, we're kind of seeing a really huge boom of video game adaptations, and honestly, you can thank Mortal Kombat for that. I know it wasn't the first, but I know we mentioned Mario Brothers, Street Fighter, and Double Dragon. Well, let's face it, I think every video game adaptation owes Mortal Kombat like a thank you for that.
I think so too. If you could compare the video game movie genre to the superhero movie genre, to me, Mortal Kombat is kind of like that first Tim Burton Batman. It kind of like broke the mold. It
Yeah.
really did kind of set the standard as well. That's how I kind of see it as well. And I watched, like I said, I watched this film again like 3, 4 nights ago. And I just found myself just really getting back into that kind of spirit of just watching a really entertaining movie. Especially like some of these fight scenes are just great. The soundtrack's great. And yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I really enjoy Mortal Kombat a lot. Way better than anything I've seen with these updates so far. Hopefully the second one, like you said, that's coming out in October this year, is it? Will
Yep.
be better. But so far, Mortal Kombat 1995 to me is the standard bearer when it comes to the kind of like the video game adaptation. And Jason, I thank you so very much for joining me today. And remember, everyone to check out Nerd Cage Live. I'm going to have all the links to Jason's stuff in the show notes, including the link to the Cynthia Rothrock interview, so you can check out her response to the Mortal Kombat question in there. And yeah, I think this has been a really great chat. It's been a pleasure to be able to talk all things Mortal Kombat 995 with you, Jason. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Matt. Happy to be here once again, and I look forward to whatever next movie we plan on talking about together, and we can't wait to have you back on Nerd Cage Live real soon.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.